Another good day for Bitcoiners. I have Pedro with me today. He works in communication design and works to make Bitcoin more accessible, user accessible, usable, beautiful, connecting creativity to the tech. And it's using a lot of variety of skills he's collected throughout his work in the fiat life. He works as a designer and a developer for the Bitcoin conference and contributes extensively as well to non-KYC open source projects like Bisq, Mempool, things that you've heard of and know. He is also, he leads the design for the SatSigner wallet project. He's founded research publishing house called PirateHash. We're going to check that out. Lots of different things there. And he co-founded a lightning game called Chain Duel. You may have seen it. It's been out there before. It started in 2023. We're going to talk about that as well. Now, if that wasn't enough, he is also directing a film called The Anatomy of Bitcoin. He's got some shorts up now, but that's getting together into a longer form deal. So I'm really excited to talk about all this. Pedro, thank you so much for joining me. We have a lot to talk about.
And nice to have me. Thank you for having me, Fritz. Nice to be here.
So working on the Bitcoin conference, that's sort of, in my mind, that's sort of the most obvious thing that looms and is coming up. You know, it's got that deadline. Specifically, I think we're talking about the open source stage in Vegas. Is that right? But you also cover gaps in all kinds of ways for the conference, right?
Yeah, mostly I work for the open source experience, open source hub. And as a designer, just working on bringing a good Bitcoin experience for the people that are coming to the conference.
So things that come to mind, I mean, obviously there's the infrastructure and things that are connected, but there's the tech, and you're looking at the stage, there's like the video playing in the background, and someone's got a transition effects, or, you know, when things are happening, it triggers events. What is it specifically that you kind of help make sure it looks beautiful for the visitor?
So thank God I'm not dealing with the AV part. That's a whole, for that to work well, you actually need very specialized people. What I'm really interested in is putting the Bitcoin content on those screens and working with the technology, mostly Lightning and Nostr, and bring those experiences that usually live in the browser and on your phone to the screens.
Okay.
Or just creating the images themselves, creating the content, something that helps people visualize Bitcoin. We work with a lot of different stages, so we have a lot of different audiences. So it's really exciting and challenging to have to communicate to all these different sectors of Bitcoin. The Bitcoin conference in Vegas is extremely wide. It touches everything in Bitcoin. At least that's what we try to make.
From a lot of moving parts, a lot of individuals that are connecting and engaging. And like, I imagine, like, you go on the website, say, or you're on your phone and you're navigating the map of all the booths and where they are. And, or then people are, you know, buying tickets or interacting with it. And so it's the behind the scenes magic that occurs to make all that just sort of work and function, both for visitors and the user experience on the website and for the partners involved. And do you want to go into detail about kind of an example of something you worked on to make it work?
Yeah, just in general, the way I see, at least even internally, how I talk about it is that everything starts with the speakers. Those are the now, maybe someday that might change, but right now the core of the experience is the speakers. That's what most people come to see. And then there's a whole world that develops around that, from placing the speakers in a good enough stage, from all the headliners to the developers don't even want to show their face. And then you have to build an infrastructure. There's so many moving parts. We work with our amazing production team that makes sure that every single piece is on point when the doors open and the guests start arriving. We have other designers working on content, but also on the marketing, beforehand because people need to know what to expect, and we need to attract people. And there's so many moving parts. And again, I'm mostly interested, especially now with the rise of AI, the effort to create interactive experiences using the LED screens and an internet connection. You can do so much, fetching data from all different kinds of places, exposing QR codes for people to interact with. It's all there's a potential for everything to be interactive, for everything. And
Wow.
when I see interaction possibilities, I immediately obviously think about how can we put Bitcoin into this or Nostr and make Nostr for me helps make Bitcoin more human as opposed
Hmm.
to a string of like a Bitcoin address. And with Lightning, it becomes immediate. And now that all these screens are connected to the internet, we can just create these things that react to people's Bitcoin interactions with it.
Yeah. So a lot connects with Nostr as well. And, it's interesting. A lot of people's access or ability to use tech, they can think of an idea like, okay, I get Bitcoin or Nostr like as a tool. I can see how it could work better, but then people are limited by maybe their lack of technical skill or their willingness to put in the time to like. To us, it could be really simple little things like, oh, you just got to do this and do that and do that. And for them, it's like, okay, it's too hard, or their barrier seems really low. But you work on things that help remove those barriers and make it more accessible. Those tools are coming around like on Nostr for Bitcoin and elsewhere. I'm going to bring up to the screen here real quick. Now, here's your profile on Primal, but you have, for example, overarching here, designing Bitcoin op UX UI. That's user experience, user interface, right? Tell me about this.
Yeah, a while back, I wanted to talk to some designers in Bitcoin, and I thought the best way to reach them was to start a podcast. And I got some really nice conversations about a subject that I was just really wanting to know more about, which specifically was who's designing and what their process is uh, on developing and deploying these open source, mostly wallet projects, but also, for instance, Learn Me a Bitcoin is a project that Greg Walker did that just teaches Bitcoin, and he's basically
Okay.
sharing his journey of understanding Bitcoin, which I think it's what other people are doing with their wallets. They're just sharing their tools, the ones that they develop themselves for themselves.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I've been trying to start this again, but I've been really busy. And other podcasts about designing Bitcoin also started. So uh, this was my this was my journey through podcasting.
Yeah, and it kind of sets the tone of things you were interested in, having interesting guests, and it's stuff you're working on now. But it's really cool. I mean, so melding the developer behind the scenes tech work with also good design. You got guests from CoinKite, Blue Wallet, BTC Pay, Sparrow Wallet, Learn Me Bitcoin, SatSigner, great guys. Anyway, so now this um, has applies itself to the work you do today. And I don't know where you want to start because you've done a whole lot of different things. Do you want to talk about SatSigner? This looks like you can sign up for beta access.
Yeah, and we're working. We had a couple of hiccups. This is an interesting project that also every to me every it might seem from the outside that I'm working on a lot of different projects, but ultimately it's almost the same project. It's just my understanding of Bitcoin and how I can use what I know to apply it.
Uh-huh.
And pretty much everybody is doing the same thing. Maybe you have your podcast in Bitcoin, but I'm sure you're doing other things in Bitcoin too. So I'm
Hmm.
just expanding and creating more branches. And SatSigner was an idea for a very specific type of mobile wallet that I was lacking, and as a design experiment that turned into an actual development project. And
The
we're
sport
very
of open sats. You got some help from them?
yes.
Awesome.
So at some point we applied for a grant, and we got a grant. We went a little crazy, or maybe I went a little crazy and added too many features. So the launch is slightly delayed. It's very hard to stop and adding more powerful features to this.
Uh-huh.
But we're getting to a very stable spot where um, SatSigner can offer a very, very strong and complete Bitcoin user experience in a very UX centric way.
Cool. And you're combining, I mean, from the screenshots here, it looks like you're combining a lot of configurable capability, but in a design way that makes that accessible to users. So, I mean, I guess it's giving users a lot more power and options over how they might interact with their Bitcoin. Or do you want to break it down in terms of uh, the top selling points about what it is, what it does?
The idea appeared from the frustration of having to jump around between applications to actually visualize what I was doing in Bitcoin.
Oh, I see.
So the goal is to get everything in one single application that connects to as little as the lowest amount of services and external servers as possible. So you can pretty much create an explorer with your Electrum server connection without having
Okay.
to necessarily ask third parties. So if you already have a secure Electrum server connection, you don't have to go and connect to other points to get information, and that comes from the paranoia that exists in the developers that are working in this project. Because since we got the grant from OpenSats, I was able to spread that grant and bring other people, and collaborating with other stuff. That grant since ran out a long time ago, so now it's more on a volunteer basis, and that's why it's taking a little longer. But the idea is to give full visibility to what you're signing, so you can be confident that you're signing what you think you're signing, but also for you to understand exactly what you're signing. And for that, I think it requires a little bit. You need to dig a little deeper into how Bitcoin works. So this will show you the nuts and bolts of how Bitcoin is being moved and signed.
That's awesome. And if it's anything like, your video diagram shown here on the website, it's beautiful. I can also imagine, and I can relate. Well, this is from a past life, but when you've got a product and you've got like a ship date, or you have some money and there's kind of an expectation of some kind of outcome, and you have goals as you're working on it, you have so many ideas, and then you have to kind of say, okay, we can't do all of it, or we'll be working on this forever. So you kind of got to pick and then finish specific features and get them like done and implemented and available, and then do the others. But it could really take a lot of your time. I imagine you're balancing your time all the time as you're working on the conference stuff and working on this, that, and the other. You've got a variety of projects going on, which is impressive. When do you think a beta might be available? If people go to the website here and they can sign up, you go to SatSigner.com, provide your NPub, and you could get beta access. Do you have a sense of when that might happen?
We're aiming, so then we have a couple of delays related to Apple App Store, which we're kind of using as an excuse to delay the launch, because
that is a pain.
there is, I understand I think about what you said a lot about how many features, if you're creeping up on just blowing up the app to do too many things. But
Uh,
for me, my rationale was we already have very capable and powerful mobile wallets. So you need to, if you actually want to be useful for the user, you need to offer what they already offer plus a lot more. And
so if you're going to jump in the pool and enter the space, there's got to be a compelling, like,
yeah,
here's what we also do. It's not just another wallet. It's a lot.
the 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 UI, the attention to detail that there has been put into the UI is just one component, and the new patterns like selecting UTXOs by those bubbles, being able to visualize the chart of the transaction, being able to see your transaction history, multiple hops. Those are kind of design patterns that other wallets could implement very easily, but we're working on something. The goal with SatSigner is to reach parity with your banking app. And for that, you need something else. It can't just be a Bitcoin wallet. It needs to be a Bitcoin wallet that understands your data and where you can, for instance, label your transactions very easily, but also sync your transactions with other devices. And there's a wallet, a German guy called Andreas Griffith. He made Bitcoin safe, and he worked on this protocol to sync and chat via Nostr NIP17 messages.
Oh, cool.
And this allows you to sync between multiple devices. Potentially, even if you want to give up some of your privacy, you can sync to a server or sync to a service. But this is what we need in Bitcoin for people to compare it to their Bank of America app and compare it to their Bitcoin app and see that they can compete in that level. Yes, it's still hard to understand, but this makes it very easy to use. Like there's no other wallet that allows you to the things you can do on Sparrow on desktop.
Right.
There's it's almost impossible to do certain things on a mobile environment.
Oh, really? Hmm.
Well, it's just
Like,
there's no apps that offer the full experience yet, and neither does SatSigner because the experience is very wide. But I know that, for instance, with paynims and or silent payments, those are things that are in our roadmap, but they will become easier to implement as other wallets are breaking ground on that. We're
hmm.
hoping that because of everything being open source, we're just hope to take everything from everybody and incorporate it, and it's becoming extremely cheap to bring all these features together. Especially now with AI, we have developers in our team that absolutely hate AI and that like AI. So we
Yeah.
have a very we've stricken a really nice balance where even though we haven't launched, we're making a lot of progress in the features, and we're very confident because they're being reviewed by humans. And mostly the only person really using AI, it's me, and it's for UI.
Hmm. For a project like this that's so technical and extensive in its features and needing to know the protocol and the network very deeply, there are apps out there that people that didn't have a real coding experience vibed together, vibe coded and put together, and it worked and is pretty, and they put it out there. But for something like this, you really have to know the nuts and bolts. I mean, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah,
So,
especially because the AI is not yet familiar with a lot of the concepts that we're exploring and putting together. It is now, and I've seen it's been an amazing couple of not year. It's been an amazing year or an amazing 10 months because we've gone from because there's so many people are using AI now. You actually understand that not only the AI has become smarter, but it has become extremely knowledgeable about Bitcoin because it's probably the technology that is more open and well documented. So
mhm.
there's this body of text on the internet that these LLMs can draw from that no other system has, and it's completely open, and you can run codes and test it in a matter of minutes. So if there's a bug, it can be fixed almost immediately. But again, when you start mixing Nostr and Bitcoin together with the problems of the legacy coding system and on the mobile environment, there's still a lot of stuff that can go wrong.
Sure.
But yeah, as Nostr becomes more and more documented and tested, you can tell that the AI is getting really, really good at Nostr stuff and Bitcoin and Lightning and eCash and all of that.
It's amazing to see where it's headed. You see AI as a good tool, an important thing to learn how to use, but not as a crutch to just rely on it. But AI itself is learning all the details on what works. But ultimately, you've got to have your core developers that validate all the little details, because things have got to be just right for this to not make mistakes.
Yeah, we all of us were already working on this and building this project before the big AI boom. So most of the people I work with, we were already working before the AI boom. So we're very cognizant of the dangers of just blindly accepting commands and code. Some of the people I work with more than me. But again, as a designer and developer, I need to go out and try and prototype stuff, and then there's a chance that the team on SatSigner comes in and makes the code actually run very smoothly, because sometimes the AI does really egregious stuff, and some that.
I've heard stories, and AI can also, like, prove out an implementation, like tinker around, play with it, mess around, and just try to use it and find inconsistencies or point out issues that you may or may not take, but it can be a real tool. Now, if you want to contribute to this project as well, you can donate sats to it as well. Support the developers, support Pedro and the team. You can donate funding to them and support this project. They got a kickstart here with Open Sats and the Bitcoin conference, but you can support them and help make this happen. Where did you learn? Because so much of software, I mean, what people interface with is the UX, the UI. In your journey, as we're learning to code and you learn in tech, where did the creative and the design part of it become part of your skill set? What was some of the early stuff you worked on where you learned design?
My family used to tell me I was a good drawer, so I've been paying attention to that, and I have architects in my family and art historians. So I've always found art history fascinating, and what pushes movements and ways of seeing throughout the ages. And I've always been drawn to that. But I'm not disciplined enough to be an architect of physical stuff.
Yeah, it's a hard school to go through.
Yeah, but architecting in the digital realm, it's much more accessible. So I went to fine art school for the communications design, and there is where I was introduced to code. A good friend of mine there, we started coding together, first with Flash and then processing, Arduino, also just experimenting with stuff. And then finally we learned about PHP and MySQL, and there we were able to start doing stuff online, and I've been playing with websites for a long time, and also with some app development. But really, SatSigner is that culmination of everything that I wanted to see in an app. But then I also worked a lot with film and video. I did exhibition design. I did a I have a very varied career, and I've always tried to touch as many things as possible. Even when I was working, when my work was more related to architecture and not Bitcoin, before my Bitcoin starts, and more with fine art the before that in school. So yeah, it's once you understand that you can make the computer do things for you and take big chunks of data and make it understandable.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of take noise and make it readable. You kind of get this dopamine rush where you just want to make more stuff because suddenly information comes to light and you can see it, and
Uh-huh.
you just want more of it. You just want to understand. Suddenly everything. I think every I think everybody has the potential to understand everything if they have the drive to understand it. I don't
Yeah.
think it doesn't take you. You don't need to be very smart to understand Bitcoin. You just need to want to understand Bitcoin. And if there's, I've used other people's tools that allowed me to understand Bitcoin so much better. And I just want to take what I learned from those tools and apply what I know and make it more visible.
It's got to be an amazing feeling when you're working on code or you're interacting through command line stuff and screens of text and all. It's doing all this stuff, but then when you convert that, translate it to a user interface, and it becomes like the magic of it, where people then have that user experience and it just works. Suddenly they connect to it, relate to it, and they can appreciate it better. Like they could look at a screen of text and all the code, and you can explain it, and they're like, "Okay, that seems cool and complicated and amazing." But when they have an interface from to use it and do the things, and that works elegantly, there's it just pivots into something amazing for the user that they fall in love with it, and that's got to be an amazing feeling. Did you also work on mempool.space? Was that part of your work?
Uh, Mempool.space, I joined the team when it was the brand and the design were already launched.
Uh-huh.
I mostly do the the collateral and other materials that need some design attention. It's really with my work for the conference, it allows me to go out and contribute to other projects, and sometimes the mempool team just sends me requests and I just do what they want because I also want to contribute to the project. Is probably one of the Bitcoin projects that I use the most, and I also want to have a part in the development of this because it's growing to be such a powerful brand and a powerful project. It's it's not just about the technology. There's also the teams that work behind the projects and how they project themselves in the overall market of Bitcoin ideas, and you kind of just want to be a part of it.
It's awesome. People love this site, of course. Like this is an example of there's a lot going on behind the scenes and access to so many things. And this it's sort of just amazing how the visualization and the chain and the blocks and then all the stats and analysis of things. It's very well done. So people go to this all the time to, see what's going on the chain. So yeah, just connecting to various projects. There's so many things going on. It brings me to PirateHash. So it's combination of research as well as books and other things. Is this one of your projects specifically, or is this a collaboration with people?
This is a project. I was reading the code, the Bitcoin code, and I just wanted a physical copy of the book. So I started
Yeah.
messing around with laying out the design and color code of the book and making it into a nice object to have. And as I was working on it, I was thinking, well, I would pay to have to buy this from someone. And at the time, I was just selling something because I thought people wanted it, and it turns out they did. It was also interesting to take open source code, put it into a book, and release it out into the world without worrying about copyright or anything.
Yeah.
Um, and now I'm about to launch another one, where if you go to back to the homepage, you'll see that there's a really expensive book, the third option.
This one here?
Yeah, so I started doing this, researching by hand and
Oh, wow.
annotating by hand.
Annotated.
But now I had this project stopped for 3 years, and I just picked it back up by asking the AI to actually give me annotated version of the code. And instead of having to write the code itself and having to learn C++ and having to know everything, I'm actually just reviewing what the AI writes. And you don't have to trust me. You can actually ask your AI to review my AI work. And this will be printed in the book form soon enough. And it will just be another nice book for me to have and read sometime. And when I have questions about certain parts of the code, I can refer back to the original code and test out what I know about it.
It's beautiful. The initial implementation of the code, I mean, you can look at it and it's like thousands and thousands of lines of code. And unless you're a real good, if you're familiar with code and how all that works, trying to parse that out or break it down, it can be overwhelming. This is a beautiful way to translate that for people who either understand code or are interested to learn. This makes it accessible for people so they can look at it and say, oh, chunk by chunk, this is how it works. You would gain a very good understanding of like basically how the protocol and the function of Bitcoin works. So that's awesome. And have it in a book so you can, there's something about having it in your hands and thumbing through it and reading it. Honestly, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and also in the beginning of the book, there's a small primer on the basics of Bitcoin and the history of Bitcoin. Also, by asking the LLM to go out to the other Bitcoin books that have been written and open sourced, you can just compress that into a couple of like 3 or 4 small introductions, how to explain how C++ works. Not for you to be a specialist, just for you to have. If you get confused with something, you can go back to the beginning of the book and find what it means to do, because there's a C++ cheat sheet, and there's a cryptography primer. There's a Bitcoin history, and then as you move along in the book, there's small references that allow you to go back and forth and kind of navigate the book in a non-linear form. So you also you mimic the code execution. The book is not meant to be read page by page, but it should mimic how the code is executed, so you know exactly which steps are involved in the network handshake between two nodes, as opposed to having to read it as a continuous storyline.
Right. Because, as the code operates and runs, it's bouncing around from functions and functions, objects to objects, etc. But let's say maybe you're a coder, maybe you want to learn to code and you're into Bitcoin, but you want to get into the guts of it, this would be a way to dive in and follow it without getting lost in a big long string of all the code. You can bounce around with references on knowing, like, okay, with explanation, what this is doing here and where that goes there. And okay, you're going to jump over there and you can dive into this and that function or object. And it's a great concept. I'd never thought of this. It's just really beautiful because people will download and read the white paper, to get an understanding of things. This gets into the code, which is beautiful.
Yeah, a lot of people read the code too. The trick is that I think people, because they think the code is always accessible and they can read it at any time, they delay it and they end up not reading it. The goal is to allow people to have an object that they can pick and find interesting things, but also annotate themselves and create a more personal relationship with the code. And now that AI can automate this, we can actually print the whole series and run through all the versions. So you can have in your bookshelf, just like the big law firms have all the case laws and all those books.
Yeah.
We can kind of have books to understand the evolution of Bitcoin and not just focus on the first version, because Bitcoin has changed so much. Doing this by hand would take decades, but we'll be able to do this almost instantly. And now that we have so much discussion about policy and forks, it's important to, whether you stand on one side or the other, it's important for people to actually grasp that technicality of it, because otherwise it becomes kind of a technocracy where just the Bitcoin bureaucrats deciding what happens, and I don't think anybody wants that.
Yeah, and it would give you a really good foundation on understanding how the code works. Like if you want to participate in the technical conversation about stuff, this is a great way to start. Or even if you understand things about it, it just galvanizes your fundamentals in a very accessible way. So great concept here. And not just the book, you have some poster and artwork as well. You've got the Genesis block poster. And other things you could hang on your wall if you want. Put it in your Bitcoin office.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Yeah.
If you're interested in the context of the data, it's nice to see it in these ways. And I just printed what I wanted to have on my wall, and other people were wanting it too. So why not sell it in the store? I also wanted to test BTC Pay server, so I actually thought, well, then I have to make a real store and not just sell it individually. And this basically proved to myself how easy it is to work Bitcoin. So every single project that I do strengthens the conviction, and I think that's ultimately what I really like about Bitcoin, is that it lets you do whatever you want. I've done a lot of these by myself. I did a lot of these other things with other people, other Bitcoiners that I collaborate with, and it's amazing how free it feels to be working late at night and just make stuff work without having to ask permission from anybody.
Yeah, totally. And you're getting beyond just the tech to design, but you're making art here. Tell me about this one. What is the white circle here? It's artwork. You're making artwork.
Yeah, this is related to the Bitcoin documentary, The Anatomy of Bitcoin, which I was writing these Python scripts on Blender that were grabbing data from the node and converting it into geometry, and then I had these visualizations of Genesis block and the network, and I thought if an alien grabs the chain data and doesn't necessarily understand how to convert binary into hexadecimal or to ASCII,
Uh-huh.
how would we make something visible on chain without decrypting anything, without parsing or unserializing or serializing anything? How can you get something that's visible? And at the time there was the big ordinal controversy, and I thought, well, I'm not a fan of ordinals, and I'm not a fan of specifically the types of images that get done like that.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Totally.
But I did thought it was very interesting the way I could now put more data into the chain, because back in 2018, which is also kind of relevant right now because of the op return wars. Back in 2018, I had made a website called Bitscribble that for if you paid the fees and a little bit extra, we take your UTXO and put a op return message on chain. Because at the time it was very hard to put stuff on op returns, because I tried to put a couple of things, um, and I mean, a lot of people call it pollution, but I think it's just the way it is. It's you can do it.
You
I
can
did.
do it. It's how the protocol works, and that's the thing about it is that yeah, uh, people would like there to not be certain things in it, but then the protocol allows for it. So
Yeah,
quite a discussion in that area going on right now. And what I hope, and I mean, we have our opinions about that kind of stuff. What I don't like to see is like too much fractured divisiveness in the Bitcoin community or development community or the plebs. And I think there's way more that we agree on about it all. That Bitcoin's important. We care about it a lot. It should remain decentralized and secure. But in terms of how we maintain that, whether we want to have the code much more ossified and changes don't just up and happen, but they're very carefully done. Even as Bitcoin can do a lot of things, but how do we keep that sandbox clean and maintain that? But
yeah,
you see a lot of divisiveness, and I try not to get caught up in that. I do tell people like, hey, do your own research, but run a node. And they're like, well, which node? And it's like, you know what? I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I have my personal opinions and strong, thoughts about, what would Satoshi do. But I try not to get divisive about it because I'm limited in my own technical knowledge, but we do want Bitcoin to remain strong and secure. So I don't like attack vectors on it.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
getting into your documentary, let's see here. Oh, yeah. Well, you made this quick little tool as well. Quick Sats converter I just saw. You can plug in. You built this here.
yeah.
Anyway, quick and simple little thing, but it's beautifully done. Tap in the number of sats anywhere, and you can convert that live to all the currencies. So I just thought that was a cool tool. You also worked on Bisq. Are you still working with Bisq or?
Not so much more.
Uh-huh.
It was the one of the first projects I worked on Bitcoin, but it's kind of in the beginning when I joined, they had no other designers, but in the meantime, other designers come in and they're in really good hands. So I started working on other projects, but it was the first kind of user experience project I worked on back in 2018, and it taught me a lot. And it immediately made me understand that the UX problems are way more complicated than they seem at a first glance.
Yeah, Bisq is unique. It's a fundamentally kind of a different decentralized exchange, being very peer to peer for having a trading network, running on your own hardware, not relying on like a centralized service or a website, and then you can connect directly with other peers on the network and do trades. Open source, very community driven, convert to currencies and trade Bitcoin directly with people. So it's a really unique kind of decentralized exchange there. And this was the Sats converter that I didn't get on screen earlier, but anyway, that's the cool view on the Sats converter. You can go to satsconverter.io.
Yeah.
Bisq is at bisq.network for a decentralized exchange tool.
Something that might be worth saying about the Sats converter is you go over there. So the utility is not just converting the sats. The utility is making it extremely easy when you're using this tool, when you're at the end of dinner or when you're splitting bills for other things. So you can actually use you can do simple math there on the if you add another 1,000, it will automatically do the math for you.
Yeah.
Did you add some? Can you add no, but actually like divide that in 5 or something.
Oh, you mean like divide by 5? Like that?
Yeah.
Oh, it'll do math.
It will do math, but also you can change the date. So imagine that you went out for dinner and the bill was 1,000,000 sats and 5 people, and you want to split the bill, but now you also want to go back to the price that you paid, not the current price. So you can go to the top corner and change the date, and it will calculate the Bitcoin price at that time, and it will update the URL so you can actually send this to somebody else. And the reason why I'm saying this is all these small details come from my own experience when I'm working with other Bitcoiners and we're doing things, and I see all this friction in communication that could easily be solved if the tools already provided these small abstractions. And so now you could take that URL and just send it directly on your DMs, and it will.
That's handy. Very smart.
There's
so
a lot.
You're with friends. You're at a restaurant. You get a bill. It's some random amount. You're like, okay, well let's split this 4 ways, and you do that, and then it converts it, and then you're like, oh, maybe because you're translating stuff in and out of fiat or whatever. You got the bill in fiat, and you run the math, and you're like, oh, well, that was yesterday or whatever, and then you can go back and you can pick that date. Okay, that was on the 20th. Change the date, and it'll update it.
Yeah, and you can sort the currencies to make your preferred one first, and you can make the math on the currency itself, so you don't have to necessarily think in sats, because I know a lot of people are not there. And even if you're dealing with really big numbers, there's 2 toggles on the top left that allow you to see the number spelled out on the top right. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
And this is because if you put 21 million Bitcoin, you want to know exactly how many sats there are. Sometimes with Bitcoin, you're dealing with small amounts of $0 and 5 sats, and sometimes you're dealing with millions of Bitcoins, trillions of dollars, and quadrillions of sats. Which also changes if you're in the European side, because in Europe, billions are a different thing than the US. So this was all extremely confusing for me. So I'm just trying to make this super easy so I don't have to think.
Yeah, our brains, as we grew up in this fiat world, the language of our money is in the fiat that we grew up with. And so then as we transition to translating these things to sats, this is a tool that lets you flow through all that and convert things and visualize it. And
some people don't need this. Some people are really good at making this all in their heads. I'm not like that, especially when we go to the big numbers.
Yeah, yeah. You get into a big number and you're like, you know what? I didn't bring my calculator. And then you're constantly thinking through all the things. So yeah, that's awesome. And then it brings me to your documentary. What inspired you to do this? Now you started out like I saw on your YouTube channel. You can go to YouTube, search for Anatomy of Bitcoin film, and you've got some shorter ones you've started with, the Genesis block and the chain here. And you're building this up towards being a longer form documentary, is that right?
Yeah, and we have other. There's a lot more clips, but on YouTube we're only putting the more finalized and refined ones. But yeah, ideally we're making these slowly, a couple of episodes a year, because it takes a long time to produce these things. You have to write the code to extract the data, then you have to write the code to animate the objects, then you have to animate the camera, render the actual thing, cut, write the voiceover, and then actually cut the film, cut the video. And it's it's no coincidence that usually 3D movies cost like $1 million for every 5 minutes, and
Yeah.
this is all done by myself at home with my machine and Blender, which is also an open source software that allows
Uh-huh.
me to connect directly to my node, extract the data, and then map the data. Here in this case, you see in the binary, but then also convert it into hex, and then
Ah,
and from there we're building the Genesis block bit by bit, with a voiceover that explains exactly what you're being shown that on the screen, kind of like a nature documentary, but instead of seeing the gazelle run away from the lion, you're just seeing how the string of bits has any meaning beyond just the zeros and ones.
awesome. It paints the picture of the architecture behind the scenes. And what's amazing, and it's just we take it for granted, the computers and the tech, but how fast all of this really is and how computers operate. But behind the scenes, I mean, even just coding, I mean, so you're working in, so there's the UI part of software and that UI and UX, of course. And then behind the scenes is the code and the rendering. And then behind that, interpreters, coders writing in more of a, translated language that they use to drive all that. Under that, it's interpreted from binary. And then, of course, there's the hardware, but there's layers and layers and layers to how this all gets broken down ultimately at the computer architecture level of just bits of ones and zeros. But it's incredible. It's huge.
Yeah.
So this is a way to visualize it and say, oh, I mean, just hexadecimal itself, it's a different language, if you will, but it's boils down to math and how we understand it. So where do you see this growing into? Basically, stepping from the Genesis block and the chain, and then what other chapters might you be adding?
There's the network, there's the mempool, there's the UTXO set, and all of this is part of the same mechanism. I've put a little bit of a pause on this project because I added another sub project to this one, which is an explorer. And if you go to anatomyofbitcoin.com/explorer, you'll see that taking the idea of putting Bitcoin in a 3D space, and then each level of the protocol can be represented, and you can go deeper and deeper and deeper, but always with the connection where you're physically outside the network. You can go into a node of the network and then go into the blockchain that's inside the node. Inside the blockchain, there's blocks. Inside the blocks, there's transactions. Inside the transactions, there's outputs. Inside the outputs, there are script. Inside the script, there's cryptography, and then either you go back to the network or you stop there. I have a little bit of a crazy idea that once you get to beyond the cryptography, there's the actual value, and the value we represented with a sphere, which represents one single sphere is a set, and that set then kind of zoom out, and inside that set you have the network again, because the value of each set is only as valuable as the whole network. So if you go inside a set, you close the loop and you're back at the network level, and you can go inside the node, inside the block, inside the transaction.
And this is going to load the actual data from the network.
This is loading from BitNode's API. They have a script that goes node by node and fetches the. It should be loading. I don't know.
I think it's slow because of my bandwidth, and I'm streaming at the moment. Like even YouTube videos.
It's worth, if you want to click again, it's worth following the step by step.
Okay.
This will load from BitNodes. They have their.
I'll let it load here, and maybe when it's ready, we'll show it off here.
This website takes data from a bunch of different places, and that ties back to the mempool connection, because Chain Duel itself also takes data from mempool, and that's why.
So tell me about Chain Duel then. This started in 2023 as a game, and I mean it's been out there, but people can. It's a game, right? So people can play it.
So in 2022 or 23, I met Francis Mars in Azores, in a conference at PTC Azores.
Yeah,
and we started talking. He's also Portuguese, and he had a bunch of ideas and projects that he was already working on, and then we started working on together on this project that he had, Snake Duel, but we turned it into Chain Duel, and we added Lightning payments to it. The idea is you have two players that want to take sets from each other, kind of like Street Fighter. In a very what's the easiest game that's most interesting and can explain and create metaphors of Bitcoin as possible. Obviously you already had Snake Duel, which was pretty much what you're seeing now, but with a slightly different design. We added a lot of design and detail to this. And two players scan a QR code with a LN URL that has a minimum and a maximum amount. On that LN URL, they send their username, so they can put emojis and they can put their kind of battle name, and then they fight for the longest chain. And when you take all the value from your opponent, another QR code shows up, and it lets you do or nothing, or you take the money as the winnings. And this all happens completely independent. We actually have it's custodial during the amount of the game, but then it's settled and everything is done as the game ends.
And the winner takes the sets.
Exactly.
That's fun. That's cool. The fight for the longest chain. So so many different things, your creative projects you get into here. What inspired making this game, and just kind of something for fun, something tangible for people to play that utilize the Lightning Network and let people just tinker and play and be competitive about it, right?
Yeah, it comes from a lot of this comes from working for the Bitcoin conference, and this project has been an amazing experience, because even though it started with the Bitcoin conference in 2023 with me and Francis working on their arcade together, we then developed it into something way cooler, which is a project that can go conference by conference and create an unique experience where people can spend sats and test. People are testing wallets on it. PRs have been made because of support that the wallets needed to have for some of the technology we're implementing in this game. And it just got us so much deeper into the Bitcoin experience because we're using all the products, all the projects, all the protocols. It's a holistic Bitcoin experience. We even have Nostr. You can sign into the game with a Zap, so we can actually take your kind zero information, take your user, your display name, and your image, and then at the end of the game, we can issue another event that proves that you won the game. So you have social proof
Oh,
that
cool.
you played. We can use your profile to populate the game and show the winner as your face. This is something that is impossible with any other technology. Only Bitcoin, Lightning, and Nostr enable something to happen like this, so without friction.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's just happening live right on Lightning, and it proves out, people have a sense of, okay, yeah, I can buy stuff with Bitcoin, instant payments, instant settlement, all that kind of thing. But this just proves out in just a very lively, fun fashion on how that can just work. So
Yeah,
that's awesome.
and we had amazing games where young kids were taking money from adults. We had big Bitcoin influencers that could not play the game because they didn't have a Lightning wallet. Fran- Between Francis and I, we must have helped hundreds of people onboard into Lightning, and I've witnessed people struggle with like hundreds of wallets. We've been to conferences in Brazil, in El Salvador, Lugano, Riga. Sometimes it goes just Francis. Sometimes we go together, and this has made me so aware of the struggles that people have with their wallets
Ah,
that it's priceless user research.
oh, totally. Yeah, just how people navigate their tech and how they use it, and something like this proves it out, how to make it work. And when you talk about UX and UI, I mean, this is just like an epitome of all of that. A game, all the UI, the gameplay itself, and then on the back end, the Lightning connection. Um, it's just, it's awesome, and it's such an attractive event to have too. I mean, it's not like you're describing tech and, oh, it can do stuff. Okay, conceptually cool, but when you have a game, well, people want to play it. So, and you're just having fun with it, but you're learning and proving out all the tech. So,
Yeah, and we had amazing tournaments, and props to Francis because he organizes and he galvanizes the people. He brings everybody together, and we make these tournaments where actually people make serious money, and they're very competitive. We had Roxy, which you just saw win the tournament in Madeira on that video. He became one of the best players. Sometimes in other conferences, new players show up, and there's a sense of community when you're all seeing something you understand. And this game is not very hard to understand. Everybody understands Snake, and there's a bar on the top that clearly shows you who's winning. And when you win the money. Uh, and we've seen really beautiful stuff in conferences happening around the game.
yeah, you've been showing this off everywhere. You do a lot of traveling, I imagine. You get to the conferences now. Obviously, you're working on the Bitcoin conferences, but what are all the conferences you work on when you're developing uh, access and tech and UI for these conferences? Is it just for the Bitcoin Magazine set of conferences, or do you work on a lot of different ones?
My my main job is at the Bitcoin conference,
Mm-hmm.
but our agreement is that I have time dedicated to bring value to the conference and build the overall conference, but I also have this time allotted to just roam wild in the open source and the Bitcoin space, because ultimately my goal is to elevate the Bitcoin experience. But in all the conferences, I did a lot of work for with Fractal Encrypt, helped him out in Madeira to build the amazing gallery that he was building, and also uh, at adopting, just taking what I've learned from working at the biggest conference in the world, and also giving back to other smaller conferences that are breaking ground, but also having more of it's a different kind of experience. Sometimes some conferences are just for Bitcoiners, and some conferences are for everyone. And
Yeah.
I like to visit those two extremes. The audience that goes to Madeira every 4 years, or the audience that goes to El Salvador, is very different from the audience. There's some people that go to both. Uh, my goal is to actually bring everybody that goes to adopting should be going to Bitcoin conference, because that's the front lines. That's where the crypto curious bro or the fiat politician, everybody that's kind of trying to benefit or corrupt or make a buck in Bitcoin is
Mm-hmm.
there, and kind of like the really maximalist Bitcoins also need to be there, because if we're not there, then it's who's gonna control the messaging.
Yeah, those conferences are a mix of everybody. I mean, a lot of people go to those, and I mean, okay, there's the there's the tech part of it, but people are having an experience and a relationship with the community. That I've talked to a lot of Bitcoin artists, and people who are creating things that aren't on Bitcoin directly, but are adjacent or plug into it, or are crafts, the art. It creates this experience that, we're humans, and so it can't all just be about the tech, the money, the finance stuff, business itself. It's artwork, for example, connects people in so many ways, where you're appreciating the creative aspect to it all. So like helping Fractal Encrypt on laying out artwork, getting it on the wall, having it look nice. uh, that's very much, you'd say, like, not technical, but it takes a real awareness of what looks nice, what lays out nice. It's
Yeah,
applying that design skill still.
yeah, it's amazing. I don't know if he's doing any other conference or any other gallery, but it's amazing the amount of work that goes into this. I was just helping kind of visualize the space and doing some kind of logistical help, but there's a gigantic effort, because first you need to be very well aware of the whole art scene. And this
Uh-huh.
goes, it's the same thing in all the other facets of the conference, but with the gallery it's interesting because you then have all the objects there that represent the hard work. But you need to go out and contact all the speakers, all the artists. In some cases, specifically in Madeira and El Salvador, you need to ship big objects, which in
Mm-hmm.
some cases is I don't even it's a nightmare. Even in Vegas, it's always a nightmare when once you're starting to move objects around the world and cross borders, it becomes a little bit more complex. and and then just making it cohesive and interesting for the guests to appreciate. I also work very closely with Dennis on the conference for the Bitcoin conference, and it's amazing the different things that you have to navigate. And the same can be said about the overall space of the conferences. Like this, it's almost like you're designing a computer system. You have the overall system inside a box, and then you have the cooling components, you have the motherboard. Inside the motherboard you have different
chips and
microprocessors. The CPU in itself, the CPU is a whole universe inside, and then you have it's every single detail needs to be thought out, and it's amazing what actually people can do when they all organize and make stuff happen on time.
I can only imagine what it's like that, you work for a conference and okay, on paper your role might be in this area, but then as it's going on and help is needed here and there and everything from the layout of the entire analog space and then where the booths are and where people are going to transit and travel and what should go where. And then you zoom into a stage environment or the gallery environment or the bazaar or whatever. And it's like at a big level, does it make sense? And then zooming into the areas, does that layout make sense? And then individually for a specific display of a one artist and another artist, does that look right? I can only imagine you get pulled into helping anywhere it's needed, basically. Like once it's going, do you find yourself just helping out in all kinds of every way?
Yeah, but thank God the production team has it very well. They run a really really good operation. It's also that we've been working on this conference for, well, before my time. Obviously there were other people working there, but I've been working with this team for 5 years, and we started with one conference a year and then switched to 4 conferences a year, and we became very efficient at building these conferences, which is great because with the production being so on point, it actually frees up time for someone like me to go out and spend time trying to come up with the Bitcoin thing that can become interesting for a guest to actually leave the conference with some sats on their pocket, with a couple of wallets installed and empowered to use it outside the conference, instead of just more ideas about how to buy and hold, to actually use the technology.
Uh-huh.
I'm not advocating that everybody should go out and spend Bitcoin, but specifically Bitcoiners that are wanting to see Bitcoin being adopted, we should all be testing. We should all have like an education fund where we just send money out kind of recklessly and test the things, and be willing to lose, be willing to do the extra work of maybe reaching out to the developer and giving a little feedback. Even if it's complaining, it's also useful for the developer to know that there's someone with complaints, so they can correct, because bad experience at its core is like not being able to paste an address into a field. That loses
Right.
people. I've seen this happen thousands of times, and sometimes it takes 5 minutes from a developer to just add that paste button that's going to allow me to keep the conversation going with this guy that's asking me if I accept Solana.
Oh
and
boy.
and I have to say, no, download this Lightning wallet, and then if whenever there's any friction, the people are just waiting for that friction to be able to tell me, you see, it doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. The smallest little thing. I've seen it. You're a vendor, you're selling stuff, and someone's got a random wallet or something, and they're looking for their button, or like, how do I scan that QR code? Or oh, okay, well, I've got an address here. Where's the copy paste button? And those little things. And we're so used to like freely spending or burning fiat out of our wallet or whatever. Bitcoin and Lightning can very much be the same, and it's a mental shift that people get into Bitcoin and then they see the importance of it and they like stack and hold, stack and hold. But many Bitcoiners, influencers out there, have just basically spoken to the importance of proving out the usability of it all, but being able to, with your tech, to say, oh yeah, I can buy coffee with this, buy a book with it. I'm spending and replacing, but it's a mindset that I'm using this. Yes, you have your store of value stack that you preserve and take self-custody and be really careful with. But don't you also, like you have your bank account, don't you want a wallet where you can easily use it? Use it as money, play with it, have fun with it, and then find out that it works. One, that it works, or two, if it doesn't work right or whatever, is it you knowing how to navigate that, or is it the tech itself that a developer might need to make better? I've seen improvements over the years where it just gets easier and easier and easier. And a lot of stuff, people have their mechanism. Oh yeah, buy that, then zap, done. And it's very consistently very easy. But whenever there's that little wrinkle or, oh, I can't figure it out, you risk that negative experience or a customer walking away or like, oh, I can't figure this out. I knew it was hard. And it's not, but all the implementations have got to be done right. And it's coming together, though, I think. I mean, I see improvements every year.
Yeah, for sure. It's improving for sure.
And it gets proven out at the conferences themselves, like at the Bazaar and people using it. So April 27th to 29th, the Bitcoin conference in Vegas, you're going to be there, I assume.
Yeah, and we're doing the open source hub space again. So we're going to have project stations with some really important Bitcoin open source projects. We're trying to bring projects that touch on all parts of Bitcoin, and also with app publishing and app development, just making sure that everybody leaves the conference knowing that there is a space for them to contribute to Bitcoin, not necessarily some aspect that they know already exists, but wanting to surprise. And also we really want to bring people together. I've met people in conferences that pretty much changed my life. I know other people have met the one developer they were missing on their team in conferences. And sometimes you go to a conference like this, it's a lot of people. It's hard to imagine that from 30 to 40,000 people, there's that one person that might change your project. But sometimes just meeting that one person is enough. It's well worth the trip, the ticket, and when you go to a lot of these conferences, you start understanding how the mechanism works, and you can meet more and more people. And hopefully this open source space is the place where the people that want to test the technology meet, but also where we organize to go out into the rest of the conference, to bring the rest of the world in, to be interested in the part that I personally think is the most important part of Bitcoin, which is the application and the code, the open source culture, and everybody that's building on that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much more to a conference that occurs that, you can see what the agenda is or who the speakers are or who's going to be represented. But when you get there, there's so much intangible networking and connections you make just randomly. Things that I got out of those conferences. Like I was in Vegas last year. I'll be there again this year, so maybe I'll see you there.
Yeah.
But it's all these little intangibles that you run into people, you're talking to people, there's people discussing stuff. You might just be browsing by a booth and overtly they've got their thing, but you get into conversations and things about other stuff that just connects you at such a deep level. It's very inspiring. I've heard so many stories where people went to a conference just to kind of feel it out, check it out. One example being like going to a Bitcoin Prague conference, and they came away with a new direction of their life, like new ideas on what they want to do. Like they saw stuff happening. They met people that wanted to help. They might even collaborate on business together. Or they just came away with just inspiration on, oh, I get it now. Like you get infused with energy, and it's just amazing. So it's total vibe. Yeah. And you're around like-minded people of all disciplines and backgrounds and interests, but it comes together and you realize how much is going on in this space. It's just very inspiring. I don't know how to describe it, but you got to go to a conference if you haven't been to one. What other conferences do you work on? So you'll be at Vegas. What are some other ones you either work on or attend?
Amsterdam, Hong Kong, and Mina. Mina
Oh,
is in
cool.
Abu Dhabi.
And doing the same work for all those two, making things work, function,
Yeah,
and look right.
the scale is a little different in all of them, but now with the other international conferences, we've been experimenting with this small booth where we have this gigantic collection of Bitcoin devices and Bitcoin things that people can buy and they can interact with. They ask us questions. Some people, they see their favorite products. Some people see their most hated products. Some people have no idea what's happening there. Some people get really confused because we're not selling anything.
Okay.
And we just have a lot of fun because we're testing. I'm learning from other people that even sometimes people get to the booth and they take a hardware wallet and they show me stuff I didn't even know about. So it's it's this place where also if someone is struggling to understand, we can give you a quick demo of how to move on chain to Lightning and do a couple of Lightning transactions and give you a quick demo of how Bitcoin works beyond the number go up.
Right. And people could go to that booth, see a showcase of hardware and tools and stuff, and some they're familiar with, others they're not. But see, instead of being overwhelmed by like I don't know where to start, you could compare and talk about it and learn about it and have a good understanding of like the landscape of the things, and then learn about how things work and what they do differently.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Lightning itself is getting easier and easier. Where I remember when I first started getting into how Lightning worked, and okay, so I set up ran my own little Raspberry Pi node, and you load up Bitcoin, you load up Tor, you load up Lightning, and then I'm learning how to setting up channels, keeping channels balanced, and all those little things. And I thought, for a lot of people, this is kind of a lot to maintain or be aware of or work on and build and make work for you. But tech is making all that more and more accessible with just channels that automatically rebalance, or you're not even worrying about that part of it. It just works for you. And then Lightning just increases your capability so well. But I see all the tech evolving really nicely.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to share about of all the things you work on? Is there something I may have not covered that is also interest of you?
No, I think we covered the most important stuff. I would like to say that for open source contributors, anybody that has made contributions to any Bitcoin repos, the conference is offering a free pro pass. So this is to incentivize everybody that's thinking about building on Bitcoin. To know that we're giving out free passes, and the website is not launched yet. I don't think the website, but
Okay.
we will launch the slash open source page on the website, and you'll be able to apply just by sending a commit that's been merged. We can evaluate and send you a free pass.
Yeah, so that'll be added on on like the main website here, you might be
Yeah,
able to, there'll be a place. I was just imagining you go to someday open source or something like that.
yeah, we'll add it, and it will be added to the navigation too. We're also pushing it on social media, so you want if you want to find it, you'll find it.
Cool. So that's if you're a builder or you write code, you could go there. It's providing access to the conference, to um, give respect and support to people that are building on Bitcoin, to give them access to the conference is how that is for.
Yeah, we'll see what happens if now everybody becomes a developer and write codes PRs into existence. If everybody asks for a free ticket, we might have to reconsider that in the coming years. But for now, I think we're good.
Yeah, it's like, oh, everybody's got a podcast now. Everybody's a developer, and it's like, well, good.
I mean, that's ultimately the goal.
Yeah, everyone works on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's part of everybody's life, and everybody does something. And so in the future, that something that anyone does, wherever that is going to be involving Bitcoin. So,
Absolutely.
well, it's been awesome to have you. I really appreciate the conversation. I'm impressed by all the different things you work on. I mean, contributing to Mempool, your documentary, the anatomy of Bitcoin, the Explorer. That once we're offline here, this will load for me better, and everything else. So if people want to connect with you, you are on X, so people can find you on X if they search for Pedro here. As soon as
I don't go there very often.
okay,
I'm mostly on Nostr.
okay. And that's where we were communicating. So you are on X, if people like X, but I'll tell you, if you're not on Nostr, get on Nostr, people. Here's your profile on Nostr. Pedro MVPG. You can find Pedro on there. I got in the show description, I've got your NPub up there. And then here we are on your page. This is our stream there. But so you're sharing stuff you're working on, things of interest here in your feed. You're up on Nostr. And then you've got PedroMVPG.com. Not lately updated, but this covers chunks of all the different areas and things you've worked on. Hey, there's a picture of the Chain Duel game. So you can find Pedro online, connect on Nostr. He is on X, but he'll be more interactive on Nostr. So there you are. Pedro, it's been really great. Oh, I didn't even have that on stage. There we go. Yeah, Pedro MVPG. And connect with them there. NPub. Cool. And on X. Okay, with that, Pedro, I've really appreciated the time. It's been a fun conversation. I'm just super impressed by the diversity of all the different project areas you work on. And I'd imagine the kind of stress it must be as a conference looms and it comes up to the day and you're just on and running around doing all the things for like 3-4 days or whatever it is, a whole week. It's a lot of proof of work you're putting out there. And I'll just say thank you for the work you do to help make these events happen and then make accessibility and user experience to Bitcoin itself better for everybody. And then we look forward to see what's coming up with your projects and your beta coming out. So
appreciate it, Fritz. Thank you so much for the conversation.
You're welcome. Thanks again. See you next time, Betty. Bye.